Coming up on Network Africa. Mpox vaccines arrive on African soil, with Nigeria the first to receive 10,000 doses. Tensions escalate in Nairobi as protests against Kenyan government continue. Plus, Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez visits West Africa, seeks to stem surge in illegal migration. Hello and welcome to the program. Thank you for joining us at this time. I'm Layo Olarinde. We begin with health matters. Nigeria becomes the first African country to receive 10,000 doses of a vaccine to combat Mpox disease. The United States Agency for International Development, USAID, donated the first batch of vaccine to Nigeria. During the official handover ceremony, the Director General of the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, Dr. Muyi Aino, says the distribution of the vaccine will commence immediately and priority will be given to the states with the highest cases and frontline workers. Our correspondent, Victoria Longjohn, reports.
To convey these 10,000.
It's the official handover of the first batch of 10,000 doses of the Mpox Jynneos vaccine donated by the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, a significant milestone in Nigeria's efforts to combat Mpox. The Jynneos vaccine is approved by the United States Food and Drug Administration for the prevention of smallpox and Mpox in adults aged 18 years and older who are at risk of Mpox infection. The event is witnessed by the management of the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, representatives of the U.S. government, the World Health Organization, and other stakeholders. The donation of 10,000 doses to Nigeria is considered timely as the nation improves on its efforts to curb the spread of Mpox, which has so far claimed 517 lives across 13 African countries.
This will go a long way to help those who are in need, because monkeypox is not something that we want to have in this country. We all know how large our population is, and we need to ensure that we nip every disease in the bud, especially those that have to do with public health concerns.
Frontline workers in states with highest cases will be given priority attention when the vaccination commences.
What we are going to be doing with that is to prioritize where we deploy them based on where the need and the impact will be greatest. Because of the nature of the virus and how it is transmitted, it is through contact and exposure to sick people. We believe our frontline health workers are at particular risk. We are also going to prioritize states that have had the highest number of cases. Many of them are in the south, but of course we're going to have to work with the states to develop state-specific plans, to make sure that the vaccine is appropriately deployed.
We will continue to work with Nigeria on efforts to stop the spread of the monkeypox illness, and we will continue to look at how we can help Nigeria.
So far, Nigeria has recorded 40 confirmed cases of Mpox across 33 states of the Federation with 0 deaths. From Abuja, Victoria Longjohn for Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, the Lagos state government has announced that it has no active case of Mpox, but is concerned about air, sea, and border travelers who may bring the disease into the state. This is according to State Commissioner for Health, Professor Akin Abayomi, who made this comment during a press conference in Lagos. He says aside from body contact transmission, sexual transmission is on the rise, with the clade 1B variant spreading in Central Africa.
We do not have any active Mpox cases in Lagos at this point in time. We are not talking about the indigenous Mpox clade 2. We are rather specifically focusing our attention on the risk and the potential of importing the circulating strain clade 1B that is circulating in the Central Africa countries, and that there is a possibility through our multiple airline and trading routes that such an opportunity for the virus to enter Lagos exists. And as directed by His Excellency Babajide Sanwo-Olu, Lagos knows that it needs to be proactive because of the density of our population, the risk that any contagion that is imported into Lagos can easily spread from person to person. The origin of Mpox is from the animal kingdom. The first transmissions came by what we describe as a zoonotic event. In other words, human beings coming into contact with wildlife, such wildlife as rodents, monkeys, squirrels, who naturally harbor the Mpox virus. But subsequently, what we are observing now is that there's a combination of zoonotic events plus human-to-human transmission. In other words, you get the first infection from the animal kingdom, and subsequently, the virus is changing and mutating in such a manner that once it is in the human population, it can spread from human to human through very close contact. The attributes of the new virus, the clade 1b, seem to be slightly different from the clade 2. It is slightly more aggressive. It seems to be spread particularly through sexual contact, and the clinical features are slightly different with a slightly higher aggressive nature.
Well, over to Kenya. President William Ruto has formally launched former Kenyan Prime Minister Raila Odinga's candidacy for the presidency of the African Union Commission. The unveiling took place on Tuesday at the Presidential Palace in Nairobi, with numerous heads of state from East African Economic Community, EAC, members in attendance. Also in attendance was Nigeria's former President Olusegun Obasanjo, who has thrown his weight behind Raila Odinga's candidacy for the AU chairmanship. Mr. Ruto praised his former rival for his experience and commitment to Africa's development, even as the 78-year-old Raila Odinga outlined his plans to make the AU more people-centered and also to serve the interests of majority of Africans. The AU Commission chairperson election will be held in February 2025 at the 38th AU Summit in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and that would choose the 5th Commission chair to succeed incumbent chairperson Musa Faki Mahamat. Raila Odinga has the most endorsements from 20 countries so far. He is running alongside 3 other candidates from Mauritius, Djibouti, and Madagascar.
My plan is to work with you, Your Excellencies, and make the AU more people-centered and serve the interests of the vast voiceless majority of Africans. The African people should feel the AU in their lives. Excellencies, if elected chairman, I propose to utilize the transition period to critically analyze the existing proposals for reforms and building capacity of the AU Commission. The ultimate aim is to follow up on the implementation of the reports so far formulated.
Also the ideal candidate to lead the Africa Union Commission. Accordingly, Kenya endorses his candidature unreservedly and we commit wholeheartedly to support his candidature, his vision, and his leadership. I think the Lion story is apt. To assist in making the case for Honorable Odinga's candidature, I also unveil the Secretariat, which will be led by Kenya's Foreign Affairs Principal Secretary, Horisingwe, and Ambassador Elkanah Odembo. It will also include a diverse membership drawn from 5 regions of the Africa Union. The assignment we are called upon to undertake at the Africa Union Commission is the work of all Africans, for all Africans, and a noble cause to bring our peoples and nations in touch with the promise of the glorious future we all deserve.
Still in Nairobi, the anti-government protest persists as tensions escalated outside a local police station on Tuesday as protesters gathered to express their dissatisfaction with the Kenyan government. The protests, which began last month, have continued despite the withdrawal of a controversial finance bill that initially sparked widespread unrest. Well, let's get more on all that's happening in Kenya. Joining us now is Juma Majanga, in the VOA's reporter in the Nairobi bureau. Thank you so much for your time, Juma. Well, let's begin with Tuesday's launch of Kenya's AU chairmanship bid. Talk to us more about that event that happened at the presidential palace.
Thank you. I attended yesterday's unveiling of Raila Odinga's AUC chairmanship bid at State House that was attended by 5 heads of state from the region. Remember, Kenya is projecting this as Raila Odinga as Kenya's candidate and not an individual candidate. We saw the attempt really to make him like an East African candidate. And we saw presidents from around the region, Yoweri Museveni of Uganda, Salva Kiir of South Sudan, Samia Suluhu of Tanzania, and even Somali's Sheikh Mohammed. So Kenya, this was a very colorful event and trying to project Raila as the candidate for the region so that we saw a lot of mobilizing across these countries even before the launch of that happened yesterday in trying to get the support of these heads of state from the region. So yesterday was a culmination of that to project Raila as East Africa's candidate, not just Kenya's candidate, but East Africa's candidate. Kenya is very optimistic with this candidate, and we wait to see how that will go.
So how confident, is the country and East Africa, as you've pointed out in general, in Raila Odinga? How confident are they for him to lead the African Union?
Raila Odinga has projected himself as a Pan-Africanist, a Pan-Africanist leader in Kenya. Remember, he's vied for presidency for 5th time in Kenya, though unsuccessful. But Kenya sees him as someone who has a great connection with the leaders across the continent. And not just that, he has a great understanding of the region and knowledge of the region and experience, his wealth of experience in the region and even globally. So Kenya is particularly very optimistic with his candidature at this time. Remember, this is the second time that Kenya is filing a candidate. It tried it the last time. The candidate was not successful, the former Foreign Cabinet Secretary for Kenya, Amina Mohamed. So Kenya has really put its foot down on Raila, and we've seen government put its machinery behind him. Remember, Raila was William Ruto's main competitor in the last general election in 2022. But now we've seen that they've come together, both opposition and government, and they have mobilized. Even his campaign team, if you look, both people from government and his team have come together. So Kenya is really looking forward to his candidature. And really, you can see a lot of optimism. I think, like you mentioned, he's among the candidates, is the one who has gotten the most of endorsements. So really, there's a lot of optimism, not just in Kenya, but the region, that this time, Raila stands a chance of clinching the seat.
All right, Juma, it's good to see former rivals coming together, uniting for one cause. So thank you so much. We hope to see and know what happens in February when the elections, eventually happen. Thank you, Juma Majanga, the VOA's reporter in Nairobi.
Thank you.
Let's take a break now on the program. Still to come. Bloomberg reports South Africa's billionaire Johan Rupert overtaking Nigeria's Aliko Dangote as Africa's richest man. More details after. Please join us again. Welcome back to the program. We continue in the Democratic Republic of Congo. 50 people, including 3 Americans, are facing death penalty for what the Congolese army says was a coup attempt earlier this year. The country's military prosecutor, Lieutenant Colonel Rabaju, urged the judges to sentence to death all those on trial, except for one defendant who is said to suffer from psychological problems. The defendant's trial opened in June, and they face a number of charges, many punishable by death, including terrorism, murder, and criminal association. According to the Congolese army, the failed coup attempt that targeted the presidential palace and a close ally of President Felix Tshisekedi was led by opposition figure Christian Malanga. In May, 6 people were killed, and Mr. Malanga was fatally shot for resisting arrest. Over 300 people have been arrested by the International Criminal Police Organization, Interpol. According to a post on the Interpol website, those arrested have links to one of West Africa's most feared criminal networks, Black Axe, and other affiliated groups. According to Interpol, the operation, codenamed Operation Jackal 3, focused on online financial fraud and cuts across 21 countries in 5 continents from April 10 to July 3, 2024. The operation led to the seizure of assets valued at $3 million, dismantling of multiple criminal networks, and identification of over 400 additional suspects. Law enforcement agencies also blocked more than 720 bank accounts connected to the illicit activities. Black Axe is said to be a secretive criminal organization involved in various illegal activities globally, including human trafficking, prostitution, and murder. However, cybercrime remains the group's primary source of revenue. Spain and Mauritania have announced a series of agreements on Tuesday to stem a surge in migrants making dangerous Atlantic journeys to the Canary Islands. Speaking alongside Mauritania's President Mohamed Ghazouani in the capital Nouakchott, Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez said Spain will expand its circular migration program to Mauritanians and renewed cooperation between the two nations' security forces to combat people smuggling and trafficking networks. Prime Minister Sanchez is on a 3-day tour of West Africa to reinforce bilateral relations with Mauritania, Gambia, and Senegal, where the majority of migrant boats reaching the Canaries are being launched from. In addition to the migration and security agreement, Spain also launched the Spanish-Mauritania Business Council to boost investments and announced it would open a branch of the institute in the country to promote Spanish language and culture. Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu is set to visit China in the first week of September. Disclosing this to State House correspondents, the special advisor to the president, Mr. Ajuri Ngelale, said the president will meet with President Xi Jinping and several memorandum of understanding and agreements will be signed. He said the president will also attend the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation Summit, where he will represent ECOWAS and discuss regional peace and security.
His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will depart for the People's Republic of China, most specifically Beijing, from the nation's capital within the first week of September to engage in a series of meetings and activities with immediate and future benefit to the Nigerian economy and the Nigerian people. First and foremost, His Excellency Mr. President will conduct site visits to 2 major Chinese corporations, Huawei Technologies, as well as the China Rail and Construction Corporation, CRCC. This is with a view to achieve one of Mr. President's top agenda items, which is the completion of the Ibadan to Abuja segment of the Lagos to Kano high-speed rail line. Mr. President will also meet with his Chinese counterpart in the person of President Xi Jinping, where several MOUs will be signed. His Excellency Mr. President would thereafter join the FOCAC summit, where several African heads of state will be present to engage with Chinese leaders on various important matters. At this FOCAC summit, His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in his capacity as the chairman of the ECOWAS authority of heads of state and government, will deliver remarks on behalf of the region.
The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has presented a 5-year strategic plan to rejuvenate the region's peace fund through resource mobilization for capacity development of the regional bloc. The ECOWAS Peace Fund is an instrument for supporting the implementation of conflict prevention, management resolution, peacekeeping and security in the region. At a joint consultation meeting, the ECOWAS Peace Fund manager, Mr. Dieudonné Nikiema, emphasized that the streamlined coordination of donor-funded projects in the peace and security sector will foster an enabling environment for peace and security in the West African region.
The event of today is really what we call the joint strategic consultation on the ECOWAS Peace Fund. As you know, the ECOWAS head of states have set up this instrument since the year 2003. And along the line, it gets structured. It has have some impact support to the promotion of ECOWAS peace and security agenda in the region. And as a living body, it has to address some challenges because our region itself is facing different challenges. So the purpose of this meeting that is gathering us for 3 days is to get all the stakeholders so that together they can see what is the best structure we can have for the Peace Fund in order for it to be fit for purpose, in order for it to become very strong, enabled to mobilize more resources and also to manage resources for the well-being of the ECOWAS communities along all the 15 member countries. So we have here a representative from ECOWAS Commission, from ECOWAS specialized agencies, from development partners, and it is really a good time for us to reflect together and see how we can cross-fertilize our ideas to make it very strong and to respond to the needs of our different communities.
A new report published by South Africa's National Anti-Graft Unit shows active investigations into alleged corruption totaling more than $7 billion at some of its top state-owned companies. The investigations are not new and some have been running since 2018, and all of them were cited by the Special Investigative Unit, SIU, in the report to a parliamentary committee to give an update on the status of the probes. Those investigations involve 6 state-owned businesses, ports and rail company Transnet, arms company Denel, power utility Eskom, the National Lotteries Commission, National Airline South African Airways and passenger rail company PRASA. Around 60 suspicious contracts and hundreds of cases of conflict of interest and other alleged corruption worth nearly $4 billion of public money are under investigation at Transnet alone. Also, there are nearly 40 other ongoing investigations into alleged corruption involving different state-run businesses and national and provincial government departments worth billions more in dollars. A nationwide potato shortage sparked by severe weather conditions is set to drive up prices in South Africa. Citizens might have to pay more for fish and chips. Fresh produce distributor M&R Marketing, based in Cape Town, has issued a notice confirming that major retailers are bracing for the impact. Despite having multiple potato producers, South Africa is struggling to meet the demand. The shortage means that the cost of potatoes and frozen chips will rise significantly between now and the end of September. Wandile Silobo, the chief economist at the Agricultural Business Chamber of South Africa, explains further.
Potato prices have increased significantly across South Africa, and the major driver of this is the lower volumes that farmers are delivering across various fresh produce markets in the country. And farmers are delivering less volume because of the poor harvest in some areas. And one can think of this as a consequence in part of load shedding that negatively affected the irrigation areas, and the crop quality was affected negatively. And of course, the fact that some of the harvest is just less in various regions. We see, for example, that the market in general is dominated by Western Free State and Limpopo. That's where the large volumes are coming from. And we think that throughout October, one can expect that potato prices will remain elevated. It is only around about November, towards the end of the year, where we think that we may see a recovery in the volumes of the fresh produce, of the potatoes at the fresh produce market.
And finally, on the program, South African billionaire Johan Rupert appears to have overtaken Nigerian industrialist Aliko Dangote as Africa's richest person. This is according to the latest data from Bloomberg Billionaires Index. Mr. Rupert controls Richemont, one of the world's largest luxury goods firms, which owns brands like Cartier and Montblanc. His net worth has surged by $1.9 billion to $14.3 billion, placing him at the 147th position globally, and that's 12 places ahead of Mr. Dangote. Bloomberg further reports that Mr. Dangote's fortune has fallen by $1.7 billion this year, giving him a net worth of $13.4 billion. And that's a wrap on the show for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Layo Olarinde.